Welcome to AI to Z. Hosted by AirSwift's data science Donny, we delve into artificial intelligence, health tech, and more. Tune in and journey with us into the future.
Well, thank you so much, David, for agreeing to be a part of the AI to Z podcast and share some of your words of wisdom, talk a little bit more about Kydon and what you all doing there. And then, of course, where you think, the space is heading in the future. How's that sound?
Sounds wonderful. Right.
Yes, sir. So, David, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and your background?
I think I've got an interesting background. So I started out my first half of my career in the military. So I in the Singapore Armed Forces. So I was a regular. They call it a regular. I don't know why we call it that. So I was with the Armed Forces for nearly 20 years. Started out right from the bottom and then worked my way up. I was lucky in the sense the Armed Forces treated me real well, sent me for my first scholarship to do my undergraduate studies, and my second scholarship I did my postgraduate studies in FSU, Florida State University. And I think that's where my career took a turn, because in FSU I studied this program that we call instructional systems, which is essentially about how people learn in order to perform well in the workplace, right? And I came back and I took over some of the very interesting projects in the military about advancing learning in a military organization. And I left about 10 odd years ago. I started my company, Kydon, which essentially is about advancing the human potential with technology, right? So that's how Kydon started.
And tell me a little bit about, Kydon and I guess the product itself, kind of what its capabilities are, and a bit about, I guess, some of the plans you've got going on, cooking behind the scenes.
Right. Kydon is a learning technology company. So we provide services as well as technology. So traditional services in terms of consultancy, professional services in terms of how we help organizations digitalize and then advance the digital aspects of how we help people to learn better. Okay. And learning not just in terms of in a classroom context, or moving those classroom contexts into a digital world, but also looking at how do we advance learning into the workplace as well. And we can speak more about it. Obviously, in this new world, we have to think about learning from the context of from the perspective of optimizing it with technology. So, building out learning management systems is a core of what we do. We focus primarily in institutions of higher learning as well as for workplace. In fact, our core business surrounds workplace learning. How do we enhance the workforce productivity by helping those individuals in the workplace be able to upskill themselves, and not just upskill themselves, be able to be more productive and more capable. So essentially, when we think about implementing or executing technology, we come from I call it 4 E's. We want the individuals to be more efficient, to be more effective, to be more engaged, and in the way that we use technology, there has to be efficacy as well, right? And so that's 4 E's, which forms, I guess, a foundation of the way we think about technology. And that's what Kydon is about. We use technology, and obviously in today's world, we can't run away from the fact that AI is the talk of the town, and a global scale. And we've kind of adopted AI, right? And a couple of years ago, we pivoted, if you like, from a technology company per se, right, into an AI-driven company, right? And it's AI-driven, not just AI-enabled or AI-powered, because we think that AI is going to be core to many of the things that we're doing. And I can speak more about it, obviously. But just to give you a sense of how dramatic it is, I decided to close down my content team, simply because I think moving forward, it is no longer content-driven, but conversation-driven in terms of how people learn, right? In terms of problem solving rather than watching courses, right? So these are fairly dramatic changes that's happening in the learning world, right? Enabled or empowered or driven by AI, that is very exciting, and we are basically all in on it.
Absolutely. I think you and many others, my friend, are all in. As I said, the secret's out. Pandora's box is open, and now I don't
Yeah,
think there's any
yeah,
turning
yeah.
back.
So we have to get ahead of it. The thing is we have to get ahead of it, and being a commercial company, we have to think about, okay, how do we not just make use of it? How do we exploit it? How do we be ahead of the competition? And in order to do that, a key part is really fundamentally changing even the structure of how organization work. We have to change culture, we have to change mindset, we have to change structure, all right? And we have to change competency, right? We have to upgrade ourselves as well. I have to start learning
All of
AI,
us, I was going to say, all of
and
us are.
understand how it works myself, right?
Oh, absolutely. From the top down, as they say. And,
Yeah, yeah.
you've been in a very interesting perspective or point of view. Have you seen the ed tech or the education, aspect and L&D change a lot over the past, 10 years or so, or even while you're still, serving? Could you tell me a bit about some of those waves and some of those changes that you've seen, from, as you've pivoted to, starting your own business to now where, like you mentioned, you're an AI company.
Yeah, yeah, you are absolutely right. There has been waves. I think the first that there are three waves in my opinion, right? And of course, I'm not a academic per se. There might be more nuancing in terms of that, but the way I look at it, there are at least three waves. The first wave is the beginning, if you like, of using technology, right? In the way we think about training and education. So the early days are really things are really innovations like you know TV and radio, video instruction if you like, and advancing that when computer came out into computer aided instructions, right? Computer classrooms. I think that's kind of most of us who are slightly older will probably remember that, or computer based training, okay,
I still
CBT,
remember it
right?
for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So most people in the military would have kind of experienced that. You go into a room and there's computer laid out, you go there and they start clicking, and there's a discs. Sometimes in the early days that big, right, where we kind of fit it in and we run through a scenario. It's computer-based training or computer aided instruction. That's really the first wave. Okay. Um and even in that first wave, it is a good 10 years, 10 to 15 years, right? Even with the advent of internet, it kind of took that same concept of idea and began to go into this idea of e-learning, okay? In the early 90s, if you like, right? And that's still part, to me, is still part of the first wave because we're still only discovering how we use technology to learn. So platforms like learning management systems started coming out, okay, and organization and institutions started to use it. And since both of us were in the military before, one may not know that actually the beginning of e-learning started from the U.S. military.
Oh,
Okay,
very
right?
interesting.
Yes,
I would
yeah.
say it probably hasn't changed too much since they
Doesn't
pioneered
change too
it.
much. Yeah, it started from the DoD. Okay, with a department that's called Advanced Distributed Learning. It is at that point, is way ahead of its days. It's way ahead. All right. So it came up with ideas such as SCORM, shareable content object reference model. I have to remember these things, right? So how do we use technology to basically track how people learn? But it's still very much top down. It's still very much structured, content centric, very much instructional, which means that somebody knows what to teach you, somebody designs that, and somebody organize the learning, okay, for you. So that's how it is. Nothing wrong with it, but that's how it was structured. That's the first wave. And then came the second wave. The second wave came, I think, about 12, 15 years ago with the advent of this idea called massive open online courses, right? So MOOC, right? So the boom of Coursera, of Udemy, suddenly everybody thinks that. So again, the internet wave has changed into one whereby we now not just have a website where we download, but we encourage the collaborative building of content. So the beginning of marketplace, the beginning of a content libraries that's being built up, and so the second wave is about this MOOC, about this learning experience platform where we gather or we curate content from not just one single institutions, but multiple institutions across the world. Okay. And that's how we have thousands upon thousands of content. Again, it's very similar to the ideas of YouTube. Okay. It's an aggregation of content, objects that now we make available for people to learn. So we don't just have a single source whereby it's an institutional group of people, whether it's a curriculum experts within organization, but now we have the world's expert that we can tap on. Okay, so wonderful advancement, a wonderful innovation. All right. So that's phase two, or wave number two. And then now we are in wave number three. Okay. In wave number three, okay, or wave three here, it's really, we are just at the beginning of it. So we're really at a forecasting kind of space here. We are not really knowing exactly what it is, but what we know is this. What we know is that it has fundamentally changed the idea of learning. Okay, right. It has now not just fundamentally changed, it has fundamentally allowed for things that we have only dreamt of in the past and make it possible. Right. Yeah, just for example, the holy grail of learning is personalization. How do we make learning personalized? Because every individual obviously the same. It's not the same. Okay, so if you look at the first wave and look at the second wave, it is really about top down, and then we talk about a massive amount of content. But we have not looked at the individual yet. Okay. In this third wave, we are now able to look at the individual because the ability to look at individuals requires immense amount of resources. The best training is a one-to-one training. That's the best training. One-to-one training, one-to-one coaching, and small classrooms. We all know that. That is the basis of all education and all training. That is the best you can get. However, to do that requires so much resources. It is just not scalable. It is not sustainable. It is therefore not possible. But with AI, now we can make that happen, right? We can now, at that individual level, know the persona, the profile, the background, the history of that person, and be able to customize our learning experience to that unique person. So whether you are an organization of 100 people, an organization of 1,000 people, or an organization of 100,000 people, now with AI, it is possible to personalize that learning to that individual, thus making learning truly, as I mentioned, the four E's: efficient, effective, engaging, as well as efficacy. Right. So it just blows the mind in terms of how that is now possible. I think I spoke too much.
Oh no,
Back to
man,
you, Donnie.
I'm enjoying the front row seat. I just left my popcorn, downstairs. I apologize. No, I mean, it's so exciting to hear. I remember, I've been lucky enough to be, doing technology for the past almost 8 years. The data revolution as it happened. How different aspects of data science, machine learning, computer vision, NLP. The list can go on. And now AI is just really transforming things, and it's just such an enabler for accelerated growth, essentially. And I can only imagine, the goal is that when you spend time training someone, there is a level of adoption that happens, essentially. And I'm assuming there's many challenges that, like, learning L&D teams, learning development teams, face in trying to, I guess, ascertain that goal, essentially, when they are able to, run these trainings, when they're doing upskilling, especially as technology is changing. There's all kinds of individuals that have done things a certain way for a long time. And this training is more important than ever because as the tech changes, these individuals that are on the boots on ground need to know what they're doing. And they need to believe in their ability, and that they understand what they're going to be able to do. Some roles are more critical than others, but either way, it's touching everyone and everything. So I'd love to hear, maybe some of the challenges they face, and, essentially how you feel, maybe, technologies or, a company like yours could really help them.
But there's obviously obstacles. I think there's, without a doubt, as with all technology innovation, I think the most difficult is actually not the technology. The most difficult is always the organization ability to transform, right? When we talk about bringing AI into an organization, whether it's the L&D team or to organizations as a whole, the positive thing is that everybody is aware. I don't think there's too many people out there who's not aware of the idea or the power of AI. Now, there may be people who are kind of still on the fence about whether they want to use it or whether they believe that it's going to be a good for them. But everybody knows about it, so that's a good thing. So at least from an informational point of view, you have that out there, awareness. Okay, right. But what then comes after awareness is the ability to then kind of adapt it, adopt it. All right, and that requires two things. That requires change management, and change management including skills upgrading. The core, in my experience working on technology over the past decade or two, I think I'm least worried about the end user. Okay, the end users, as long as you are able to solve the problem, help them be more productive, make it easy to use, they usually can adapt much faster. Okay, right, than anybody else. There are two groups of people. Obviously, we have challenge with. The first group of people will be the people who have been doing work in the old way. Okay, right. In the learning space, obviously, we're talking about the L&D team. All right, all the institutional curriculum developers, all the faculty. Okay, so depending on what organizations you're coming from. Okay, right. All the people who are just kind of doing training or trainers, they are the reason that why it is difficult for them because they have been doing this work for the longest time in a certain way. Okay. So breaking the mental model, breaking the mindset, getting from a place whereby they are comfortable, where they have a certain knowledge or know-how of how to get things done, and moving them from A into B is a difficult task. Not impossible, but difficult. Right. So it is a change management process. But it is easier now because we can use AI to even influence them. We can even use AI to coach L&D people. And for one thing, we can use AI to make their life better. I give you a case in point. In the past, it probably will take you, if you want to create a lesson plan, okay, for teaching, for example, okay, it'll probably take you maybe 2 weeks, okay, to create a lesson, okay. You have to do your research, you have to identify, you have to do training analysis, you have to do you have to frame it out in terms of the curriculum structure, you have to start looking at content and putting it in place. You have to start then you have to review it, okay, to make sure that it's all right. You have to do user testing, and so on and so forth. Okay, right. That will easily take 2 weeks or more. Okay, now we can do it in an hour if you do it well. If you have a correct prompt engineering behind it, and we can dive into the technology of it. The moment you've done correct prompt engineering, you set up the technology in the right way, you can do it in less than an hour. That is a dramatic reduction of effort. Then it's about how do we explain it? How do we convince the users? It actually makes your life better. Now you can elevate yourself into higher order thinking. Now you can spend time doing physical engagement rather than sitting in front of a keyboard and trying your best to kind of make things happen. Okay. That is now done by machine, and your role change, right? From one that is a production role into one that is an engagement role. You are now responsible to network, to engage, to have empathy, okay, to collaborate at a personal level, something that computer will not be able to achieve, at least not in the next 5 to 10 years, maybe beyond that. I don't know. Okay, maybe beyond that. All right. So how do we help them shift? We help them shift by letting them be aware, by educating them. But I think you help them shift by helping them have a better life. Okay. If now they don't have to sit in front of computers 8 hours, they can spend some quality time at home, right? Be able to spend quality time with their colleagues, be able to move in higher order thinking and collaboration and networking. I think they will appreciate it. I think that's the main thing. I think as far as the leadership is concerned, what they are looking for is just ROI, okay, return on investment. If I can save the time, okay, from a 2-week period into an hour, it is a no-brainer as far as any COO or CEOs are concerned.
Oh, 100%. And this is where, those challenges can be very, optimistically changed, using AI. That's where that personalization aspect, where almost, in a dream scenario, I'm kind of, thinking out loud kind of a situation, where you could collect all this information about the person, give them a little bit of a test to figure out what kind of learner they truly are. Are they someone that's more hands-on, can learn visually, someone that needs one-on-one coaching? There's all kinds of, tests that you can really gauge and really understand the I guess the blueprint of someone and how they learn effectively. And if you could, simultaneously infuse that with that personalization aspect and kind of create a customized course that is just so tailor-made to that individual, that could be, amazing. And that sounds like, that's kind of,
Yeah, it's not just that. And the amazing thing about it, Donnie, is that whatever you said just now, okay, about getting those information from the person can now be enabled and empowered by AI. You don't necessarily have to run the one-on-one session with the person, which takes time. As I mentioned, the best L&D is if you have that. Just imagine that the best L&D happens when you have the head of L&D seated next to the person who needs to perform the job and says, "How can I help you, Donnie?" Okay, observe Donnie. Okay, have a conversation with Donnie, right? And then plan out Donnie's learning pathway. Okay, right? And guide the person, guide Donnie through the journey on a daily basis until Johnny reaches the peak performance level. Right now, we take that capability and put it into a machine. We probably can't replicate 100% of it. Okay, not yet anyway. Right, but there's a good chance we can replicate 75%. Okay, and that is a huge advantage. That's hugely important, right? In terms of it is actually the way I think about it, it is a social justice issue as well. Okay, we used to be able to access those kind of quality talent management or education if you are pretty high the ladder. Okay, if you're a C-suite person, yes, you get a one-to-one help. Okay, or your senior manager or director with a glorious pathway to be the top leader of the organization, right? Yes, the organization will then assign a senior director or another C-suite person to do one-on-one coaching with you, Donnie. Okay, but that's not possible. You can't do that with every single staff. Okay, right? And therefore, is there true um, equity? Let's put it this way: is there true equity? There's not true equity because that no, we do look at performance, and the different people have different opportunities to perform, and those with because of the innate quality, because of their learning experience or training experience, because of their background that emerge earlier, okay, tend to get that opportunity to get more resources, get more resources, and to get more resources. Yes, the lucky one. I won't say the lucky ones. They the early boomers, bloomers, okay, the early boomers, like, okay, because of whatever reason, because of family background, because of opportunities, they bloom a little bit earlier than other people, and they tend to be the one that will get more and more attention because they are the one that outperform other people. Okay, right. So what if we can give the same resource we give to the top 1% of a school, of a workplace, or in society? Okay, we make that available to the 99%. Okay, right, and that is the transformation. Okay, and that is the kind of change that is possible in the third wave of learning. Okay, and which is why we are just at the beginning. We are talking about it from a concept point of view. I'm excited to see how, Kydon, we are building some technologies around this core idea of personalization, this core idea of making learning more equitable, right? In the workplace, we bring the best learning, not just that's available to your top employee, and make that available to everybody in the organization, which therefore, from a business owner point of view, from a CEO point of view, from a shareholder point of view, is extremely important, right? It means that I can bring up the productivity and effectiveness of organization tremendously. Okay. And that's something we all look
yeah, and
forward
that's
to.
what we dream of, right? Especially, top management. Now, we talked a lot about, I guess, potential applications, I guess the future capabilities and things like that. But I would love for you to share, maybe some real world, use cases that you've seen that, some organizations you partner with that where they've really kind of changed, the way they do L&D took some of that, that technology and put it to good use, and maybe some of the success stories that have been associated?
I'll give you an example of how we are working with one financial institution. Let's put it this way, right? I can't name it now, okay, right? But it's a financial institution and the main issue with that financial institution is the key what do you call it, performer. Okay, as you know, organizations, sales team is one of the key performer. Okay, right? It's very important to the organization, right? It brings in the revenue for it. Definitely important. Okay, right? So the issue is, they have hundreds of products. Okay, in the organization, they have different policies and regulations, and financial institutions is a very highly regulated organization.
Oh, it's complex.
A lot of compliance, and therefore they need to make sure that people is knowing. So there are different issues. You have compliance, you have product knowledge. Not only that, you have skills that they need to learn, like for example, skills of managing objections, okay, skills of conversation, and then the way that you kind of respond to people who have different profile, okay, as a salesperson changes. For example, if you are dealing with a lawyer, doctor kind of person, the way that you kind of explain things to them will have to be a lot more detailed, right? Oriented. They'll ask for small print, and you better be ready to kind of offer those small prints, right? Because of the nature of that customer, okay? Or you're talking to a customer who's a business leader, for example, they're not looking for small prints. Give me the key pointers, bam, 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 and I'll buy, okay? Right, so that kind of,
Bottom line up
yeah,
front.
yeah. So the way you kind of manage in terms of skills, the way you think about your product suite, the way you think about the regulations and the company policies around it, it's too much. And it changes all the time. And it changes all because, it is a very dynamic world, okay? It is product change all the time because they need to adapt the products to the different policies. Policies all the change all the time because of changing dynamics of different.
It's hard to
Yeah,
keep
how do
up.
you keep up? It's just difficult. So the traditional ways, obviously, is like, you come for class, okay, we do onboarding for you, they go and attend class, they finish the class, a month later, they forget 99% of it, okay, and then things change in the policies, and then they send an email down, and nobody remembers it, nobody pays attention to it, and somebody do something that is silly, and then the organization gets in trouble, okay? The effectiveness is really not there. So how do we use AI to solve it? Okay, so I think that's a fundamental thing. We developed this idea, okay, initially. Okay, let's put it this way. When I met the top sales performer, okay, and the management of the team, what I kind of said was this. Imagine the top sales performer, the top 1% of the salesperson of the organization, the top 1% salesperson of the organization. And I say, Donnie, okay, what if I can replicate 75% of you and make it be available 24/7 to your salespeople, even the brand new salespeople? Okay, salesperson, would we be able to make the person successful? And the answer must be a yes. Okay, the answer must be a yes. Okay, so how do we do it? Okay, so we develop an application. Okay, it's like a learning buddy. Okay, it's like a learning buddy, a mobile app. Okay, that is available to the person 24/7. Behind that, we load up what we call the knowledge base. Okay, knowledge base contains the product knowledge of the various products and organizations. We load up all the policies. We call it the knowledge base. We have the profile of the individuals. Okay, right, of the individuals, new salesperson coming in or existing salesperson. They have a profile, who they are, level, and so on and so forth. So all this, we created the baseline, which is we call the knowledge base. Okay, so effectively now we have the knowledge, but the machine do not have the skills yet. Okay, we created what we call workspaces. We have different workspaces for different things. We have a workspace for coaching. Okay, so we have a virtual coach for you. Okay, right, that talks to you regularly. Okay, we have a knowledge on demand. Okay, we have a learning nuggets. Okay, right, daily learning nuggets. Okay, and we have a learning needs analysis. Okay, that works with you. Okay, all these workspaces, what's the magic behind it? Okay, is the prompt. Okay, because the issue is how do we make the machine behave in a way that is necessarily useful to the person. LLM or the large language model is a hugely successful project done by the likes of OpenAI, Anthropic, and okay, they have done an excellent piece of work. We're not going to compete with them. In fact, we make use of whatever they've done. Okay, right? They have very good language context, very good language models that we make use of. But what they do not have is the expert ability, and this is where our background as a learning company comes in. Okay, what they do not have is the ability to teach the machine how to behave. Okay, yes, we need to train the machine how to behave. How do we have a conversation with Donnie? If Donnie asks a question, now I'm a coach now. Okay, if Donnie asks a question, do I, as a machine, give you the answer, or do I help you scaffold your understanding? Okay, if give you an answer, or I can help. Okay, right. So I behave like a coach because if I'm a coach to Donnie, I'm not going to give you an answer immediately. I'm not going to give you the fish. I'm going to teach you how to fish, right? So behaves, the machine behaves according to the prompt. Okay, right? This the prompt engineering aspect is hugely important, and I'll talk a bit more about it in terms of its impact to the learning design world, learning and development world. Okay, but it is the prompt engineering that we do behind the scene for every of this workspace. That is the magic behind it. Okay, and therefore by that we have the knowledge base. Okay, right, and we have the prompt engineering to teach teach the machine how to behave. One of the things that I forgot to mention was this: there's a limit to knowledge base. Okay, why? We all know that we don't necessarily document things too well. Okay, right? We don't. Okay, I mean, even in your organization, data science is a huge organization, hugely successful. Okay, right? There's a limit to how much we can document. A lot of the knowledge resides here. Okay, right, in the minds of the experts. Okay, so part of the work that we do, okay, is to extract until Elon Musk settles his neural link. Okay, we have to do a manual extraction. Okay, right, of the expertise out. So we have conversations with the expert, and as we have conversation with the expert, we video record it down or voice record it down. Okay, right, and then we capture. We do hours of that. Okay, again, we prompt to record those conversations, which is essentially knowledge and wisdom. Okay, right. Yeah, we extract it out, okay, through a video recording process. We extract it out to an audio recording process. We instruct the machine how to decipher, how to understand to all this knowledge and wisdom and pack it together into the new knowledge base. Essentially, now the organization has a much richer knowledge base. Not only does it have it through the documents that they have, okay, or video recording or whatsoever, or even their e-learning, the old e-learning, but they have this wisdom from the experts. These are the new knowledge base. With the prompt engineering, it is now a true buddy, learning performance buddy, okay, to the person who needs to do the job. Okay. So this is what we've done, right? And it has been exciting doing this. I think has a lot of use case and applications to many other industries. Uh, we think that this is a tip of the iceberg to what we are doing, but we are learning a lot as well as we are doing this, and we hope to be able to serve our customers better. Okay, so we're kind of moving away from from the first two waves. The learning and the experience has been hugely important and successful, right? Because it is through those experiences that we are able to we are able to codify, right, our experience, our understanding of how people learn, and put it now into the new AI.
That was
Yeah.
fantastic. And there's a few things that I kind of think of, as you were telling me about that use case, is that what's the benefit of having such amazing individuals, if you cannot, absolutely learn from them and imprint some of their words of wisdom, ways of doing things. Because one of the things that just happens, it's a part of life. You're a huge optimist if you think the top performer is always going to be there. they're always going to stay with the company. They're always going to, they're never going to move. They're never going to get poached. Nothing's ever going to happen. I'm from a recruitment side. It happens all the time. But if you're able to kind of still leave a bit of that person's imprint, like you said, even if you could do 75% of that top 1%, I guess, habits and way of doing things, and give that to someone from day one or to day, 5 years in, essentially, no matter where you're at, you could really kind of really, leverage as if that person never
Yep.
leaves. It's quite, scary and powerful, all all rolled into one.
And an amazing thing. So we've talked about individual learning, okay, and that's hugely important. I think, which is why I say that we are only at the beginning of the wave. Okay, what I would like to think about it is actually learning happens in three cycles. Okay, the first cycle is learning at the individual level, which is hugely important. We want the individual to learn. Okay, then learning happens at the team level. Okay, like organizations, department level. Okay, if we have one wise guy, and we're not in a bad way, but one wise person, okay, be able to give us some imprints of his knowledge, and that gets built up. That means we don't lose that, but we now have a second person and a third person. The machine learns and get better and get better. Imagine if I'm learning 30 years of experience, now I get another 30 years, and now I get another 30 years. I got 90 years of experience. It's impossible to build that in a person, right? This is at the team level, okay, because you're still restricted to a organization, okay? And then the third layer will be at the um supra level. Okay, let's put it this way: it's either at a super organization level or even at the sectoral level. Okay, that to me actually is a level of learning. Okay, I mean, if I'm a AI person, I'll use another language, fine tuning, and so on and so forth. Okay, but the core idea from a basic learning point of view is this: you're not just learning from one expert. Okay, you're learning from 10 experts. You're learning from 100 experts. You're learning from a society's experts. Okay, right. So we can only get better. Okay, right. So that part, the obviously the engineering gets more challenging, right? And the most difficult part, I would say the most difficult part, the most challenging part is still cost. Because as the learning gets deeper and deeper and deeper, what we have not overcome the challenge will be costs. Again, that's something that corporates and organizations and governments are contending with, because the processing power behind it is just so amazing,
Oh
right?
yeah, no,
They say amazing is just so huge. Okay.
yeah, just so much. It's overwhelming.
Yeah. It's almost overwhelming, right? So how do you have sufficient energy, right, to run that? And that's something that as an industry of AI technology companies, we all have to contend with. And if since you sit in Singapore, you also heard some of the things that even our energy department is talking about. Maybe we should think about building a small nuclear reactor so we can tap on the energy, right? So things
They're
like that is
investing in
maybe
quantum like crazy. Singapore
yes.
government's, I was saying it's like 600 billion, something like that.
Yeah, so the fundamental reason is because of AI. AI consumes so much energy that we cannot go back to the traditional way of thinking about energy, right? And that's something that I'm hoping that the innovators in really the hardware side of the house can help, make things better. Because we're not in that space of hardware, okay. But we're in a space of software. So we are kind of dependent on the hardware people to innovate, to make computing more efficient, cheaper, and easier. Yeah.
And one of the things I think about, that is gonna have to happen in order for all of us to essentially survive, is really that upskilling side of things. A lot of individuals are gonna have to learn how to use AI, and as it's being introduced into their daily duties. And the people that will survive will be essentially the people that do these kinds of adoptions the fastest. And this is kind of what I see, kind of the future of this space, being so crucial, or a crucial aspect of. But I'm keen to hear your thoughts on where you see the future heading. Even the next, I think the next few years we'll see a bunch of changes, let alone the next 5 or 10. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that and where you see the direction, kind of heading.
I think AI is disruptive, right? we will see, in my view at least, I think we'll see the disruption happen in the next 5 to 10 years. Not in the next 1 to 2 years, I think, because I think we are still at a space whereby there is that initial shock, okay, of what AI is offering. Okay, there's initial shock, and people are, organizations, societies, countries, institutions are kind of saying, "Oh, what is this anymore?" Okay, right, and then um, there's an old saying, right, that when you see something new, right, there are typically two reactions. Okay, and it's a Chinese thing. It's a Chinese thing. The first thing, the first thing, the first reaction to something new will be, will it eat me? Okay, am I unprepared? Okay, all right. So it's an old Chinese saying, okay, will it eat me? Okay, now I know that it will not eat me. All right, can I eat it?
I absolutely.
Right. So there's
Another coin
two
flips.
two points of view, right? So the world will organize themselves into these two groups of people. Okay, right. The people will say, okay, will it eat me? Okay, operate from point of fear, points of worry, and the people who quickly pivot into, can I eat it? Can I make use of it? Can I exploit it? These are the people that will be successful. Okay, right. And I think this is where we are right now. The animal just appeared before us over the last couple of years. We are still figuring out, people are still trying to make sense of it. Societies are trying to make sense of it. Institutions trying to make sense of it. I've heard faculties from universities that are literally worried about it. Not because I'm not talking about the engineering side of the house. I'm talking about general faculty. It's like, is this gonna threaten my job? Will it eat me? Okay, is it gonna threaten my
That's
job?
right.
And indeed, it is a real threat. Okay. Um, yeah, so we will kind of see that happen over the next couple of years. Perhaps if it's fast, 2 to 3 years. If it's slower, 5 years to 10 years. But eventually, it will happen to the point whereby there will be a tsunami. Okay, whereby only those who knows how to exploit will survive. Okay, right? And therefore, I think, the government of Singapore, at least, okay, right, is concerned. Okay, right? How do we get people to be upskilled in it? Okay, how do we get people to know it? Okay, so that at least we know this animal, okay, and can figure it out. Okay, you can figure it out. You can make use of it. Okay, you can exploit it. You can organize around yourself around it, right? Or whatever. Okay. So this is the upskilling is important, but I think it is not just upskilling. As I mentioned earlier on, it's the same idea as when we think about the L&D team. Okay. It's not just about upskilling, it's a mindset change, it's a culture change, right? There will be structural change in societies and organizations. Okay. I will not be surprised that, 10 years from now, all substantive organizations will have an AI department. Okay. Right. I will not be surprised that in all countries, okay, moving forward, 10 years from now, there'll be an AI ministry. Okay.
I was gonna say
Uh,
committee.
um,
Yep, exactly.
right. I will not be surprised. Okay. Right. The only one I kind of got worried a little bit, based on the conversations I'm having, will be universities. Okay. To be honest with you, okay, institutions, because institutions having operated how they've been operating for the last several hundred years.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Is a very difficult thing to change. Okay. It's a very difficult thing to change. All right. So I'm hoping that the institution change, because if the institution don't change, right, they will be the one that will be eaten. Okay.
I was just thinking that.
Uh, yep, upskilling is definitely one of them. Mindset change, culture change. That's something that has been done. And then if you're a business leader, you have to think about capacity. You have to think about culture. You have to think about competency. Right. So how
Right.
do you think about those things? Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, David, it was amazing. I think I learned so much. I should have been taking more notes, my friend. That
No,
was
no, that's all right.
such a
It's
good
fun. It's fun.
session.
Yeah, it's fun. Right.
Absolutely. And I really can't thank you enough for sharing so much, insights and words of wisdom and essentially getting us all very excited for AI and how, we'll be able to learn better, which means we'll be more efficient, hopefully, survive that tsunami that we're talking about. And most importantly, help out, give us some of that balance that we're looking for. AI could really change everything. And I'm glad, there's businesses like yours that are really trying to lead the charge, embracing it with both arms, with both hands, and, saying, here we are and we're here to stay.
Yep, yep. I'm optimistic about it. I'm optimistic about it. So some people are telling me, David, it's gonna make our people, less intelligent, less useful because it's gonna take away our job. I'm really not worried too much about it. I think
Mm,
that's the amazing thing about the human spirit. Okay, right. And we've survived millennials. Okay, so
Absolutely.
we're gonna thrive with this new AI. Yeah,
That's right. Are we gonna
mm.
eat it, or is it gonna eat us?
And we're gonna eat it. We gotta eat
That's
it.
right.
Thank you very much, Donnie.
Thanks for joining us on the AI to Z podcast with Data Science Donnie. If you found value in today's episode, consider following for more insightful STEM discussions. We'll be back with another deep dive. Until then.